everyone, it's Lynnea for LDRS Creative, and today's video is all about the Woodland Christmas Cardmaking Kit. I'm going to start by taking you through the contents of this kit, and then we're going to make all 12 cards. So to start off with, this cardmaking kit has just about everything you need to make 12 amazing winter scene cards. All you need to add is your adhesive. This kit even has the 12 white A2 card bases as well as 12 white envelopes for you to make and send your cards. Let's start with the 12 printed scenic A2 toppers. There are 2 each of 6 designs, and you can see that all 6 designs coordinate together and are perfectly part of this kit, but each one of them feature a different scene with different characters, making each one of these unique scenes. I absolutely love these little critters in the snow. I think they are adorable. And just look at how much fun they're having with their various winter activities. All right, next up there are 12 die-cut character scenes. Again, 2 each of 6 designs. And these each have that fancy rounded rectangle edge design. And you're going to see that each of these die-cut character scenes perfectly match the printed scenic A2 toppers. And I'm going to show you how that works as we get into building these cards. But there are 2 each of 6 designs, same as those printed A2 toppers. So you're going to get kind of a cropped look of these little winter critters in their winter scenes. There are also die-cut ephemera characters, and again, these characters and critters are going to match the characters and critters in the die-cut character scenes as well as the printed scenic A2 toppers. So you can really get some dimension by layering these pieces up, as I will be showing you in just a little bit. But here's a little sneak peek about how that works. So you can see that these are exactly the same, just cut down even further so that it's just the character. You're also going to get 12 sentiments, and they're each trimmed into this little label banner shape. And there are 3 each of 4 different designs. So you're going to have everything you need to make all 12 cards. And these sentiments are perfectly cozy to go along with the Woodland Christmas theme. Alright, so like I said, all you need to add to this Woodland Christmas Cardmaking Kit is your adhesive. And I'm going to be using a couple different forms. I have LDRS Creative Craft Glue in a fine tip bottle, and then I also have some foam tape. And I have 2 different thicknesses here, and it's up to you which one you want to use. So this first one is my usual foam tape. It's 1/16 of an inch thick, but then this second one is 1/8 of an inch thick. So it is doubly thick as my normal foam tape. And that is going to be helpful for when I'm layering up the die-cut ephemera on top of the printed toppers. And you'll see that as we go along. So let's get started here. I have the pieces I need to build my first card. I have a card base, my printed scenic A2 topper, the matching die-cut character scene, as well as the matching die-cut character and a sentiment. I'm going to start by using my liquid adhesive to add that printed scenic topper onto an A2 card base. And this is going to line up just perfectly, so I just like to add liquid adhesive, but you could use tape runner if you want. I like the liquid adhesive because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. And I'm going to put that right on top of the A2 card. Now I'm going to move on to that die-cut character scene, that one with that rounded rectangle edge. And I'm going to show you how this perfectly lines up on that scenic A2 topper. Now when I'm adding this to my card, I will add some of that double thick foam tape so that when it pops up, you get that instant dimension. But what I like to do is look for what I call anchor points. And on this one, I'm looking at that banner at the top, as well as the trees on the left and right side. And I'm going to make sure that those little edges all line up perfectly. So especially the banner, you can see here, I'm making sure that they're lined up. And then the trunks of the trees are another good place too. I'll add my double thick foam adhesive to the back of that die cut character scene and then adhere that onto my card. Here's a trick for how I like to do this. I like to peel back just a portion of one of my strips of foam tape to keep a little tab outside. This makes it so that I can wiggle this around using the left side where the adhesive is not exposed. I can wiggle this around until I have it lined up just perfectly using those anchor points, and then I can press down where the adhesive is exposed and then just pull that little bit of the foam tape backer that's hanging out. And now I have one strip fully adhered so it's not going to move around, and then I can just kind of peek my hands around to the back of that die cut topper and pull the backer of the foam tape off of those other two rows. You don't have to do this. You can expose all of your adhesive all at once, but this just makes it so that I can wiggle it around and make sure that this is perfectly aligned before I go ahead and add some pressure and press that foam tape onto my card. Now I'm going to hold this up, and you can see how using that double thick foam tape really makes that topper pop off, and it still has that look of seamlessness to the background because that die cut character scene is popped up off of the matching A2 topper. Now it's time for my sentiment, and here's where I'm going to add just my regular foam tape behind this. You could add the double thick tape if you want to, but I didn't think it needed to since this is a clean white edge and I'm not trying to blend it in with the background at all. So I just used my regular foam tape on the sentiment here, and I'm going to wiggle that until I get it straight and then press that down. And here is my first card. Now I'm going to move on to the second card, and I'm grabbing almost the same pieces. Again, I have an A2 card base, and I'm using that same printed scenic A2 topper as I did in the first card. I'm going to add that topper onto my card base, and then we're going to do things just a little bit differently with this one to bring in just a little bit more dimension. I am going to grab the matching die cut character scene, the one with that rounded rectangle shape, but then I'm also bringing in the matching die cut ephemera character. So I have that fox that's skiing through the snow and the snowman. And then I have a sentiment banner. And I did use a different sentiment, but you could use the same one if you want to. So here's how my card is pretty much going to layer together. Again, I added my double thick foam tape behind that die cut character scene. I'm using that same trick, using the same anchor points, mainly the banner and then the tree trunks on the left. I'm going to peel back just a little bit of adhesive, wiggle that and line that up, and then peel off my remaining adhesive backers to fully adhere this die cut panel to my card. Once I'm done fiddling with the tape, I will give that a bit of pressure just to adhere that fully. And then I'm going to take my die cut character ephemera pieces as well as the sentiment and get those added to the card. So you could use these pieces on a different card if you want to, but you're going to see in just a minute how adding them to the card really builds up the dimension and makes this a beautiful card. Before I add my fox to my card with my adhesive, I'm going to put my sentiment down because I wanted my sentiment to be kind of peeking out behind that skiing fox. So I'll adhere that down, and then I'll remove the foam tape backer behind my fox and adhere him onto my card. And then this one is going to be finished. I'll give that a bit of pressure, push that down, make sure everything's adhered. And then I'm going to hold this one up for you so you can see the difference in the dimension. Just check that out. Look at all of those various pieces that are popped up. Both of these cards use the same background and the same topper, but look at the difference when you add the matching character ephemera on top. Isn't it just amazing how all of those pieces layer together? We're going to be doing the same thing for the rest of these cards here for a little bit. And I will be showing you at the end how I take one of these panels and one of these sets of cards and step them up using some dies from my stash as well as some colored cardstock. And while I'm creating this second set of cards here, I wanted to tell you that the great thing about this Woodland Christmas card making kit is that if you wanted to, you could add a sentiment just to that printed scenic A2 topper and maybe add some gems here and there, and you'd have one card perfectly ready to send. And then you could use those die cut character scenes, the ones with the rounded rectangles. You could use them on different cards by bringing in solid cardstock or pattern paper and really stretch this card kit so that you can make more than 12 cards. Because remember, you have the 12 toppers, which are beautifully printed. You have 12 character scenes, which again are beautifully die cut and beautifully printed. And then you also have those character ephemera pieces. And you don't have to layer them up as I'm doing in this video. You could create double the cards by not layering them up and creating your own elements and bringing in other items from your stash. But this is just a great way to layer these elements up and create instant dimension really easily using just the items from the Woodland Christmas Card Making Kit. So I'm finishing up here with cards 3 and 4. Card 3 I did just as I did card 1, where I added the topper and then added the character scene on top with a sentiment. Now this one I have the topper with the character scene as well as the die cut ephemera characters and a sentiment. So you're going to see again the difference in dimension here. And remember, I'm using double thick foam tape. If you don't have 1-inch thick foam tape, you could just layer the regular foam tape over on top of each other and create your own double thick foam tape. Check this one out. I just can't get over all the dimension that happens when you layer up all of these pieces on top of each other. All right, let's create cards 5 and 6. And I think I say it about every single scene that I work with, but this is one of my favorites. I love this fox pulling that sled with the tree and then the little bear in the background. It's just so cute. So I have my printed scenic A2 topper, and I've already gone ahead and added it to my white A2 card base. I'm using that same trick that I'm going to use throughout this video to add the die cut character scene on top, where I have just removed a portion of my foam tape and exposed that adhesive. Then I'm using my anchor points, and my anchor points are different for each one of the character scenes depending on which one I'm working with. But what I like to do is find an area where dark meets light, so especially the tree trunks that are against the snowy background, or even lining up the evergreen boughs of the tree, the little pine needles. And the great thing about these scenes is that you don't have to be super precise, but you can be if you want to. This second card I'm doing just as I have in the past. I have the printed scenic A2 topper on top of my white A2 card base. I'm lining up that die cut character scene and popping that up with my double thick foam tape. And then adding those matching die cut ephemera characters, again with double thick foam tape. And then my sentiment I'm adding anywhere I want to. I can add these sentiments in a variety of places, and I do try to add the sentiments in different places on both of the matching cards just so that you can get a different idea of where to place your sentiment. So here are cards 5 and 6. This one just has the background with the topper on it, and then this one has the background with that die cut scene with the characters popped up as well. And again, 2 different sentiments just to show how any of the sentiments work with any of those winter woodland scenes. Now we're going to grab what we need for cards 7 and 8. We're moving right along here. This one has the fox and the deer, and again, another one of my favorites. It's just adorable because this little fox is just kind of decorating the woods for Christmas, and I love that idea. I have my printed scenic A2 topper already adhered to my card base with some liquid adhesive. This one has easy anchor points when I'm adding that die cut character scene because it has those strings that are hanging the ornaments from the tree. So those ones were easy to line up. I lined up the strings and then just kind of looked to the left and right to make sure that I had the evergreen trees lined up as well. But if you can line up those strings, you're probably going to be okay. Then I just chose one of the sentiment banners and adhered that to the bottom. Card 8, I think we're on now, has almost the same pieces, that same background, the same character scene, and then I also grabbed the deer and the fox character ephemera pieces. I'm using my double thick foam adhesive again to add that die cut character scene on top of the topper, and then I'm going to pop up the die cut characters as well. And I should mention that I just kind of look behind the popped up die cut ephemera characters just to make sure that I'm lining those up straight. And you can use anchor points just like you do for the die cut character scenes to line them up. But again, this kit is very forgiving. So here are cards 7 and 8. The first one has just that die cut character scene popped up with a sentiment, and then this second one features the die cut ephemera characters popped up as well. All right, let's create cards 9 and 10. Check out this adorable little ice skating bear. Isn't he so cute? He just has his little ice skates on this little pond, and he's just enjoying the winter day. Again, I have my printed scenic A2 topper on an A2 card base, and this character scene is, again, really easy to line up because I'm looking at the strings from the stocking and then the tree on the left, and I'm just going to make sure those anchor points are aligned, and then I'll remove my foam tape backer and adhere that down, and then I'm going to choose one of my sentiments and just kind of pop that right in the top center of this scene. My next card uses the same scenic A2 topper and character scene, but I'm again going to bring in the matching die cut ephemera characters that go with this scene. So I have my double thick foam tape behind my die cut character scene, and I'm going to adhere that on to the printed scenic A2 topper. Really easily, again, looking for those anchor points. The ones that I find easiest on this one were the strings from the stocking and then the tree on the left particularly. Then I will add that little mouse that's carrying a tray and the ice skating bear using some foam tape. And then I'm going to add my sentiment as well. And this sentiment I did choose to add in pretty much the same place as I did on the first card, just because I didn't want to cover up the ice skates on the bear. I wanted it to really show that he was just enjoying this winter day ice skating out in the woods. So here are cards 9 and 10. We're almost to the end. Card number 9 on the left uses just that background with the die cut character scene and a sentiment. And then on the right, this one here shows you all the incredible dimension you can get when you add those matching die cut ephemera characters. Now here's where we're going to kind of take a little detour for the last 2 cards. This first one is going to be just like how I've been creating. I have the printed scenic A2 topper that has the fox carrying presents through the woods, and I'm going to use foam tape behind the die cut character scene. Again, looking for my anchor points, whichever ones I find easiest to look for, and then I'm going to adhere that down and then choose a sentiment and adhere that sentiment down. And I'm just going to remove my foam tape backer and stick that down. Now for card number 12, I wanted to show you how you can bring in some other items from your craft stash to stretch this kit and just add to it. So I have the rounded rectangle frame dies from LDRS Creative, and these are actually the same shapes as the die cut character scenes are cut. So I'm going to find the die that is just slightly smaller than this scene. And I believe that it is the third die. So the largest, and then the second largest, and then the third largest. It's just slightly smaller than this die cut character scene. And I'm going to use some low-tech adhesive, line this up, and then tape it down so that I'm using that die to cut a little bit away from the edge of this die cut character scene. Once I have that lined up, I will run that through my die cutting machine. And this is going to let me use one of the larger rounded rectangle frame dies to cut some red cardstock from my stash. And then I also used the larger label die from that same die set, and that's going to layer perfectly behind my sentiment, which is included in the Woodland Christmas Cardmaking Kit. So now I'm just going to layer things up, and I thought that it would be great to layer some red cardstock behind my printed A2 scenic topper, but I did need to trim that down a little bit so that I could keep everything within the boundaries of an A2 card. So I'm going to grab my paper trimmer and take my scenic A2 topper, that's my full background panel here, and I'm going to cut 1/8 of an inch off of each side just to keep that, that design centered, since I'm still using that die cut character scene I wanted to make sure everything was going to be centered. Otherwise, I could have just trimmed 1/4 of an inch off, but I wanted to make sure that my scene was still centered. I'm going to take my red cardstock panel, and that one I'm going to adhere first onto my card base. Then I'll grab my printed Scenic A2 topper and adhere that down, which is going to leave a nice little border of that red cardstock. I'm going to then use my liquid adhesive to add my frames to my other elements. So I have that die cut character scene that I die cut a little bit smaller using the rounded rectangle frame die, and I'm going to add that onto my red cardstock. And then I also have the sentiment that I will add onto my red die cut little label shape there, so that everything has a nice little trim of red around it. Then I will use foam tape, and just like I did before, I'm looking for those anchor points, and I'm just going to line them up. This is even more forgiving now that I have that red border there, because I don't need to make sure that things line up just perfectly. I'm just eyeballing and just kind of making sure that they are about-ish right. And then I will remove that adhesive backing and push that down to adhere that to my card. I'm going to line up my matching die cut ephemera character here, that little fox holding the stack of presents. And then I'll add my sentiment down on the bottom right of my card. Now from here, you could leave this just as it is. It looks great with just those pops of red. But I wanted to take this a step further and bring in some shiny embellishments from my stash. So I have just some clear gems that when you're looking straight on at the card, you might not even notice that these little gems are in the center of each of my ornaments as well as at the top of the banner. And then I added some to the presents as well. But when the light catches this card, it's really pretty. So here's the difference between card 11 and 12. And 11 is, for lack of a better term, as the kit intended this to be. You have everything you need to make a gorgeous card. You just need to add your adhesive. But then this last card shows you how you can bring in elements from your stash and step up these designs. So bring in your dies. It doesn't even have to be matching dies, because you could cut this panel down with a circle or a square if you wanted to. And then bring in some shiny embellishments to really help step up your projects too. Let's go ahead and take a quick peek at all 12 of the cards I made today using the Woodland Christmas Cardmaking Kit. And as we flip through, I again want to encourage you to take a look at this kit. Use this video as inspiration. You could recreate these cards exactly as I have done, or you can kind of step out of the box with these cards and mix and match the panels with other items in your stash to really stretch this card kit even further if you wanted to. I love the dimension that this card kit brings to you by giving you the option of layering up the background with the die cut character scene and the die cut character ephemera. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed and that you found a lot of inspiration to use the Woodland Christmas Card Making Kit. Thanks again, and I'll see you later. Bye!